The Battle of Cannae, the worst Roman defeat in its over 1000 years of existence. One of the most lethal single days of fighting in history, and the deadliest single-day battle ever fought in human history, where out of 86,000 Roman soldiers, about only 15,000 escaped death. Hannibal's masterpiece against the Roman war machine, regarded as one of the greatest tactical feats in military history, this battle was undoubtedly Hannibal's apotheosis. In this episode of History Pills, we will talk about the Battle of Cannae and analyze how an army of 50,000 soldiers, outnumbered 2 to 1, was able to slaughter 50,000 Romans and capture 20,000 more. What consequences this event had and how the news shocked the ancient world. All of this after the intro. In 218 BC, shortly after the beginning of the Second Punic War, the second of a series of 3 major battles fought between the Roman Republic and the Carthaginians for the control over the Mediterranean Sea, Hannibal marched his troops, including cavalry and African war elephants, into Italy, by traversing the Pyrenees and the Alps, to strike at Rome's heart itself from the north of the Italian peninsula. After a series of 4 major victories over the Romans at Trebia and at Lake Trasimene, the Romans appointed Quintus Fabius Maximus Verrucosus as dictator to deal with the threat. Fabius used attrition warfare against Hannibal, cutting off his supply lines and avoiding pitched battles. These tactics, though successful in detrimentally eroding Hannibal's army, proved quite unpopular with the Romans, who, as they recovered from the shock of Hannibal's victories, began to question the wisdom of the Fabian strategy that had given the Carthaginian army a chance to regroup. The majority of Romans were, indeed, eager to see a quick conclusion to the war. It was feared that if Hannibal continued plundering Italy unopposed, Rome's allies might defect to the Carthaginian side for self-preservation. Therefore, when Fabius came to the end of his term, the Senate did not renew his dictatorial powers, and in 216 BC, when elections resumed, Gaius Terentius Varro and Lucius Aemilius Paulus were elected as consuls, placed in command of a newly raised army and directed to engage Hannibal. This army was of unprecedented size. Polybius, a Greek historian of the time, wrote, "The Senate determined to bring 8 legions into the field, which had never been done at Rome before, each legion consisting of 5,000 men besides allies. Most of their wars are decided by 1 consul and 2 legions, with a quota of allies, and they rarely employ all 4 at one time and on one service. But on this occasion, so great was the alarm and terror of what will happen, they resolved to bring not only 4, but 8 legions into the field." This incredible effort in raising such a huge army was a clear message to Rome's allies and to Rome's enemy. Rome was mighty. However, it also shows how critical the situation was for Rome and how big of a threat Hannibal was. No risk could be taken. Hannibal had to be destroyed once and for all. In the spring of 216 BC, while Hannibal captured the city of Cannae, the 2 consuls leading massive army of about 80,000 infantry and 6,000 cavalry marched in Hannibal's direction. Finally, after 2 days of march, they found him on the left bank of the river Ophidius, now named Ophanto, and they camped 8 kilometers away. The 2 consuls, Varro and Paulus, are described by ancient historians as men of very different character. Varro is presented as a man of reckless nature and hubris, who was determined to defeat Hannibal and whose confidence was high. Paulus, on the other hand, was prudent and cautious, and he believed it was foolish to fight on open ground after the crushing losses, despite the numerical Roman strength. After 2 days of standing with Paulus having refused battle on the 1st of August, Varro gave the order the very next day to deploy the troops for battle, on the 2nd of August, 216 BC. The Carthaginian army was a combination of warriors from numerous regions and numbered between 40 and 50,000. Their infantry comprised an estimated 8,000 Libyans, 5,500 Gaetulian, 16,000 Gauls, and 8,000 of several tribes of Hispania, including Iberians, Celtiberians, and Lusitanians. Hannibal's cavalry also came from diverse backgrounds. He commanded 4,000 Numidian, 2,000 Iberians, 4,000 Gallic, and 450 Libyan Phoenician cavalry. Finally, Hannibal had an auxiliary skirmisher contingent consisting between 1,000 and 2,000 Balearic slingers and 6,000 mixed nationality javelin men. All of these different cultures and nationalities brought together by Hannibal's determination and perseverance in defeating Rome. Combined forces of the two consuls instead amounted to 70,000 infantry, 6,400 cavalry, of which 4,000 from allies, 2,600 heavily armed soldiers, and 7,400 lightly armed men, for a total combined strength of approximately 86,400. With Varro's order, the army deployed on the battle pitch. It was a hot day of August, with hotly batch of wind blowing dust and grit into Roman eyes. With their right wing positioned near the Ophidius River, the Romans placed their cavalry on their flanks and massed their heavy infantry in an exceptionally deep formation in the center in hopes of breaking quickly through the center of Hannibal's line. Varro knew how the Roman infantry had managed to penetrate Hannibal's center at Trebia, and he planned to recreate this on an even greater scale. The Princeps were stationed immediately behind the Astati, ready to push forward at first contact to ensure the Romans presented a unified front. About this, Polybius wrote, "The manifolds were nearer each other, or the intervals were decreased, and the manifolds showed more depth than front." Roman tactic was simple: outnumber the enemy, push into the enemy's line, and break the center. This extra depth, however, meant that the Romans' line front had roughly the same wide extension of the Carthaginians, and it will play a major role in Romans' defeat. Hannibal instead deployed his forces based on the fighting qualities of each unit, taking into consideration both their strength and weaknesses. He placed his Iberians, Celtiberians, and Gauls in the middle, alternating the hefty composition between Hispanic and Gauls across the front line, with himself at the front and center alongside his brother Mago. Meanwhile, the veterans and the best infantry from Africa was placed on the wings. Hasdrubal, a loyal Carthaginian general, led the Hispanic and Gallic cavalry on the left, while Hanno, another general, led the smaller but more flexible Numidian cavalry on the right wing. By placing the flank of his army on the river Ophidius, Hannibal prevented this flank from being overlapped by the more numerous Romans, and the trap was then set. The battle began with a fierce cavalry engagement on the flanks. On the left flank, the superior Carthaginian cavalry quickly overcame the smaller and weaker Roman counterpart, while on the right flank, the line Numidian cavalry harassed the Romans, charging in loose formation and lobbing their javelins before wheeling off to escape the enemy's counterattack. Meanwhile, as the infantry armies advanced on one another, Hannibal gradually extended the center of his line. Whether it was a calculated move is debatable. Most likely, the more unsubordinated Gauls, eager for battle, increased their pace, while the veterans and stronger African infantry remained cohesive. By seeing this, the Roman center also increased their pace. It has to be noticed, in fact, that the Romans didn't have much respect for Gaul soldiers. They were brave and strong in individual fights, but once the initial momentum ended, they turned into disorganized and ineffective fighters. On the flip side, the Roman wings that had to face Hannibal's veterans probably started to slow down. With Hasdrubal defeating the Roman cavalry on the left flank, instead of chasing the fleeing Romans, he led Hispanic and Celtic horsemen to the other side of the field to attack the Soki cavalry, still fighting the Numidians. Assailed from both sides, the allied cavalry broke before Hasdrubal could even charge into contact, and the Numidians pursued them off the field. On the infantry front, light infantry on both sides engaged in indecisive skirmishing, inflicting few casualties and quickly withdrawing to the ranks of the heavy infantry. As the Roman heavy infantry launched their attack, Hannibal directed his troops to maintain a controlled retreat, step by step, causing the crescent formation to buckle inward. While the Roman center army began to lose cohesion, with reserve troops filling the growing gaps, the flanks were facing the strong veterans that hold their ground firmly. Soon, they were compacted together so closely that they had little space to wield their weapons. At this decisive point, Hannibal ordered his African infantry to turn inwards and advance against the Roman flanks, creating a semi-encirclement in one of the earliest known examples of pincer maneuvering. Then, the Carthaginian cavalry that had defeated the Roman counterparts now attacked the Romans in the rear, and the African flanking assailed them on the right and left. The advance of the Roman infantry was brought to an abrupt halt. The Romans were henceforth enclosed in a pocket with no means of escape or reorganize due to no visibility caused by dust. The Carthaginians created a wall and began to systematically massacre them. Polybius wrote, as their outer ranks were continually cut down, and the survivors forced to pull back and huddle together, they were finally all killed where they stood. According to modern estimates, nearly 600 legionaries were slaughtered each minute until darkness brought an end to the bloodletting. Only 14,000 Roman troops managed to escape, and among them Scipio Africanus, the man that will years later get revenge over Hannibal and destroy Carthage. When word of the defeat reached Rome, panic gripped the city, and women flocked to temples to weep for their lost husbands, sons, and brothers. Hannibal was exhorted to march on Rome by Hannibal, one of his commanders, but he did not do so. Livy reports that Hannibal told Hannibal that he knew how to win battles, but not how to take advantage of them. In spite of the massive blow to Rome's morale and its manpower in the short term, Cannae ultimately steeled Roman resistance for the long fight ahead. Rome resumed the Fabian strategy, denying Hannibal the opportunity to achieve a second victory of Cannae scale, and Hannibal saw the strength of his armies and his allies whittled away through the slow attrition. Today, this event is still considered the most lethal single-day battle ever recorded in human history. Although being a tragic event for the many human lives lost during the battle, this event made Hannibal one of the greatest strategos of all time, with this maneuver still studied today in military academies. Each video takes time, effort, and many resources to be produced. If you would like to support the channel, subscribe and smash the like button. Did you know the Battle of Cannae? Write it in the comments. And if you know any other interesting story, share it in the comment section. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more, and bye.